Chapter 11, Black Sails. Miran found herself sequestered in a somewhat familiar estate room aboard the Dream of Earth. The room, which had once been a simple study, had been converted to a rigid meeting space after Kerrigan had taken possession of the vessel. The room was Spartan, with a simple composite work table running down the center. There were chairs down the length of each side, but oddly enough, no chairs at either of the heads of the table. A stern-looking man eyed her down from across the table, speaking little. He was sporting Ganon colors on his service jacket and no patchwork, as was expected to see on that of the flock. Each of Miran's questions that she lobbied his way received the same affirmative monosyllabic reply. Miran wished not to be here. All she wanted was to check up on Soren to see that he was okay, or to be with him if he was not. 1,000 times again, and I'll just keep asking you, why am I here? Miran asked again, nonplussed. You're here at the matriarch's discretion, Patriarch Hari said as he entered. His dress was a stark contrast to the drab meeting space, an open formal robe of green and pale white paired with shorts characteristic of Ganon's driest regions, and sandals shone like life in the dim room. Good to see you, Umar, Miran said, forgetting herself. Patriarch Hari, I mean. No matter, he said, brushing it off. It is gratifying to see you also. I see you are still adjusting to your new life. It's a change of pace. By your man here, I would have expected it would be you who called me in, not Matriarch Kerrigan. She gestured at the intransigent man across from her, who outgasped the same non-verbal reply. Leave us, Patriarch Hari said, directing his man to leave, who stood and offered his chair to Hari, pushing it in behind him. Patriarch Hari made himself comfortable as his man left. I've been trying to reach your office for days, she pressed. About? He asked coyly. I have a friend in critical condition, and the staff at the hospital in Adao won't let me in to see him. And while I have you, a Vassa conclave brought with us in the aftermath of Bordeaux is stranded in the city's outer districts. Seems they're just as stonewalled as I am. And a tragedy it was, to have escaped from in such haste, the Patriarch said. I will see to the Vass. We wouldn't want to disturb our strongest trading partner. I must admit ignorance to the status of your friend, however. I'm afraid I've not seen him. Miran let out an embittered sigh. Tell me, Miran Yi, he leaned in, what is the matriarch keeping from me? Surely you know why she has summoned us. Miran was surprised, if not a little relieved. She was expecting to be in hot water for her outburst in the hospital. For a planet leader and member of the Federation to be just as in the dark about this as she was, however, Miran suddenly began to feel more uneasy. I've nothing for you, Patriarch, she admitted, holding on to her suspicions. Kerrigan is being cagey. I'm not sure cagey is the word I would use, or maybe that's just me, Kerrigan said as she entered. Matriarch, Patriarch Hari said, standing and bowing. Please, sit, Umar, Kerrigan said, taking a seat next to Miran. You sure have changed the estate, Miran said. Not your taste? Kerrigan asked. Mine neither. It was Risa Nesanui's touch. Ah, here she is. Rissa entered, towing with her Lawson Ha. Each of them wore a formal naval jacket in the idle flock colors of gold and blue. New uniforms? Miran asked them. They look good. You can thank the matriarch for that, Lawson said. She made the task force legitimate and everything. We're flock now, same as you. I'm not flock anymore, Miran stressed. I'm not anything, really. It's good to see you, Miran, Risa said, rushing to hug Miran from behind. Risa, where's Chief Ogunye? Kerrigan asked. I was hoping you'd seen him, Risa admitted with sudden mild concern. She and Lawson took their seats. No matter, I'm sure he'll turn up. With everyone here, let's begin, Kerrigan said, calling up a projection over the table. Kerrigan gestured to a central point, a world orbiting a star in real time. This is us, she said, pointing to the flock orbiting Ganon. She expanded the view to the outer system. 5 hours ago, we received this. Kerrigan wound back the telemetry to show a sudden blip on the sensors. One of Idle Flock's picket ships picked this up. It only lasted for a fraction of a second, so watch closely. As she wound back the feed and replayed the image in painfully slow motion, Miran suddenly realized what she was looking at. A dozen rigid structures in the system's orbit faded rapidly in and out of existence. Black ships, Miran cursed through grit teeth. Their appearance here, of all places, concerns me nearly as much as their stealth capabilities. Miran, is it possible that they didn't just jump back out of the system and are still here? From what I've seen of their tech in action, I wouldn't put it past them, Miran admitted. I'm not sure if I am seeing what you see, Patriarch Harry interjected. Why do we think these are ships? Telemetry doesn't specifically identify these as anything. For all we know, these are phantoms of the sensors. They are real, Miran guaranteed, and if the past is any indication, we should expect to see them moving on this world in the next few days. This is impossible, Patriarch Hari said. I remind you, Patriarch, Kerrigan interjected, Miran has seen them before. We should trust her instinct. Us too, Rissa said for herself and Lawson. Now that we have your attention, Kerrigan said, as you know, I have recently taken over the remnants of the Cattle Heart as my own. One such department is the previously secret task force started by Miran and her captain Soren Jukovic. Kerrigan turned to Miran with this, as if anticipating her follow-up question. I have news for you regarding your friend, she said. Answers will come, but please wait until after this. For now, just know his condition is stable for the time being, and he has been moved back aboard the flock. Miran was simultaneously stressed by the news of his transfer and perplexed by her use of stable to describe him. This flew in the face of what she had seen over the past weeks. I have since formalized the task force into a special branch of the Idle Flock Security Forces, headed by our own Lieutenant Padalan Ogunye. He and his are tasked with gathering intelligence on external threats to the flock and Federation. Miran was delighted to hear Rissa, Lawson and Padalan had landed on their feet despite the present circumstances. Ensign Nesanui, Ensign Ha, if you would please walk our guests through your latest findings, Kerrigan said, giving her the floor. Thank you, Matriarch, said Rissa, taking the feed. She called up a visualized timeline of the events of the past month with several images dotted throughout. We began with missing persons, Lyndon Kide. His image flashed ahead of Miran, bringing back bitter memories, and others found discarded in cold storage. Skipping ahead to the flock's arrival on Bordeaux's Folly and the subsequent attack, we see several dozen shuttles dispatched and later disabled by remote detonations before they are able to make landfall, each a victim of sabotage. Cross-referencing those unaccounted missing persons with the points of origin of the sabotage shuttles, Lawson jumped in, we have been able to generate a list of suspected enemy sleeper agents within our own population. Images of 16 faces spun into view, 9 of which were faded. These 16 were recently identified by genetic material found on the ships in question, most of which appear to have self-annihilated via trash incinerators or bioreclamation facilities, said Rissa. At this time, it does not appear to have adversely affected the biomass recycling, though I have issued an order to cease all consumption of reconstituted foodstuffs on these ships until they can be properly sanitized. Of the remaining 7, 5 were detected attempting to purchase various chemical reagents from shops in Outer Hisho. We still have little idea as to what the chemicals were to be used for, and attempts at light interrogation had resulted in a fatal response to have been triggered in the captive's brain, leading to complete and total liquefaction. Images of several detainees in interrogation rooms flashed, pools of fluid trickling from their ears, nose, and eyes. You're saying they self-destructed? Miran puzzled. Precisely, Rissa confirmed. And 2 got away? An aghast Patriarch Hari asked. The 2 in question had already reached the planet's surface before the capture order had gone out. We suspect that they were among the first to have been ferried down, each from the dream itself, clarified Lawson. What these infiltrators and the recent appearance of the black ships have in common, I can't say, admitted Kerrigan. Chief Padalan Ogunye insisted on leading the investigation into the remaining 2. It was also under his foresight that the picket ships were dispatched to the outer system. And, do we know what Chief Ogunye has found? Patriarch Hari asked. I was hoping to have him here to answer that very question, Umar, Kerrigan said. I have been unable to reach him since his dispatch, and I admit that his disappearance distresses me. What do we know? Miran asked. Little else, I'm afraid, Kerrigan admitted. That's why I've summoned you both here. Patriarch Hari stood from his seat, seething with something to say. Explain, Matriarch, he said. What gives you and your team the authority, without the knowledge of me or my own people, to have conducted clandestine investigations on my Ganon? Patriarch, it is regrettable, and I must apologize. I made the call. We needed to keep it quiet, not to let the infiltrators know we were onto them. This I cannot abide, he said, indignant. Patriarch Hari summoned his man with a whistle, who entered and pulled out his seat. Standing, he said, the Federation will hear of this. Umar, please, Kerrigan called after him as he left. His robe, thrashing behind his distaste, carried him out of the estate room. We need to prepare, Miran said, her rage quelled for the moment. The images of her former citizens turned saboteurs still hung before her, irking her calm. That's why I called you, Kerrigan said, sitting back in her seat. You saw them in action once before. If you had to do it again, knowing what you know now, what would you do? Your ships, how many are you? She asked. Along with the former cattle-heart vessels and a small contingent from Idle Flock, 172. The rest of my flock still waits for me in Atsu. Miran considered this. Atsu was distant, far on the other side of Federation space, quickly accessible only by natural rift. Numbers aren't on your side on this one, Miran stressed. I take it you've seen the recordings of the engagements with the enemy. Even with overwhelming force as we had, we barely made them flinch. It took sacrifice at levels I wish never to see again to bring the enemy down. I was hoping you had another suggestion, said Kerrigan. We were caught with our pants in the wash last time. Perhaps through preparation alone, we can outlast them, Lawson suggested. You'd have to mobilize everyone. And I do mean everyone, Miran said, the whole population. It was the overwhelming force of an enemy within that broke us before. Don't give the enemy the chance to use our people against us. You are suggesting we hide the whole planet? Kerrigan thought aloud. Miran nodded. I don't see another way. At least get them out of the cities. Better yet, put them all on ships and send them away as fast as possible. Miran knew that was absurd, that there was no way to ferry the population of an entire planet, some 600,000 bodies. She considered her following words carefully. Kerrigan had asked her here for her help, not for shallow notions. I'll take it under advisement, Kerrigan said, and Miran sensed she wasn't completely satisfied. Kerrigan cut the projection and stood, pulling out her terminal as she did. She tapped a few commands on the small screen before turning back to Miran. Now, I owe you some information. Follow me. Miran did, waving goodbye to Rissa and Lawson as she left them behind, who sat disoriented at the vacant table. Rissa waved back. Lawson disapproved. Kerrigan was quiet until they reached the atrium, stepping out of her shoes onto the mossy floor. Miran followed suit, kicking off her shoes. She let her socks soak into the loam as she walked. I've missed this place, Miran said, brushing her hand once again on the oaken trunk. I still itch for my own tree, a willow aboard the homestead, my other flagship, she said, though this one will do. This oak is 300 years old, taken as a clipping from Scandival, said Miran, a little overwhelmed at seeing it again. This ship, Kerrigan started, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with 2 flagships. Granted, the dream is far grander than the homestead. I'll admit I've never been aboard the homestead, not even seen the Idle Flock for myself, said Miran. The homestead isn't anything to laugh at, that's plain. The rest of the flock, however, many ships are in decline and in the twilight years of their service. You should know, having sent a few my way over the years, as did your predecessor. Many more ships, however, have lost main propulsion, becoming too costly to repair. Those now drift in tow behind some of our larger manufactories. Miran knew of the Idle Flock's history, the stigma surrounding their sluggishness. Miran had ensured that the cattle-heart remained mobile in its prime, relying on agility to sustain themselves as they travelled between watering holes. She had assumed that the stories of sedentary Idle Flock were just rumours, somewhere just shy of myth. Look at me, Kerrigan said. I'm rambling. How is Soren? Asked Miran. Stable, as I said, though I'm not certain for how long. The bruising has subsided. However, he has suffered some significant damage to his arms and legs. I've also had some of Umar's and my psychologists check him out, and they have told me some fairly incredible things. Miran stopped stroking the bark and turned to Kerrigan. Kerrigan's head was in the dirt, a posture unbecoming of a matriarch of not one, but two flocks. Jen, please, Miran pressed. They claim it to be schizophrenia brought on by some manner of post-traumatic distress. I'm sorry, Miran. I know he is dear to you. And the damage you mentioned, to his arms and legs? Several skin grafts were necessary to repair damage left by the bruising. Eventually they stopped taking, and my doctors were forced to amputate. But not to worry, replacements are being grown, and in the meantime, he'll be fitted with our best robotic prosthetics. He was the picture of health before all of this, Miran said, frustration roiling. He was to overtake me one day as matriarch. I'm afraid those days may never come, said Kerrigan as she placed a hand on Miran's forearm. You have suffered so much, Miran. So much. Miran stepped into Kerrigan's open arms as they squeezed her tightly. For a long while, Miran sobbed. She let everything free that was once hidden, locked beneath a matriarchal veneer. Kerrigan said nothing, just holding on to her. Would you like to see him? Kerrigan asked. My experts assure me he's not contagious. This has been Chapter 11, Black Sails of Augur's Phage, Book 2 in the Obsidian Gods series. Original content written by Eric Berndt, all rights reserved. Thank you to my patrons on Patreon. If you liked the chapter, please consider liking and commenting below your thoughts. Your feedback helps immensely. If you would like to read ahead and not wait for the next video, all of my chapters are available free of charge on my Patreon. Patrons also get access to an audiobook file of Book 1 and other exclusive benefits. Thank you for listening.